personally have been pretty surprised. On number 4 on the quiz, I think that's an easy question. Yet a lot of people would put 1 instead of -1 as the right answer to that. And the answer should be -1. It goes along the lines of this number 1 here in the do it. So let's follow this and make sure it works. Now, it says in the function y equals -4/3 x minus 5. What's the value of y if the input is 12? Now, what letter means input? X. Very good. Middledorf, you with me here? Good. X means input. What does y mean? Output. So when it says what is the value of y, it's saying what is the output if the input is 12. So instead of x, because it means input, I'm going to put 12, which means I have the output, y equals, I know it says y, but I got to interpret that as output. -4/3 times 12 minus 5. And what we've been trying to teach you is that the easiest way to do this is to divide the 3 into the 12 right away. 3 goes into 12 4 times. -4 times 4 is -16 minus 5. What are 16 negatives and another 5 negatives? -21. And that's the answer to the first one. Now, it's an important question to get down pat for a number of reasons. First off, we know the state tests are rolling around, and I've had a number of kids ask about the opting out and so on and so forth. That's completely your business. If you choose to opt out of the test, I completely respect that. If you choose to take the test, I completely respect that. Whichever way you want to go. But how many of you guys think you're going to end up opting out of that test? Pretty much everybody's hand. In both classes, pretty much every kid said they're going to opt out. Do you know that even if you choose to opt out, you're still going to need to answer questions like this on your final exam? Okay, the final exam you cannot opt out of. All right, let's be clear about that. The state test you're allowed to opt out of. You don't have to take it. But this one you absolutely have to take the final exam. So not only if you take the state test are you going to see questions like this, but you will absolutely see them at the end of the year. So be prepared for this particular kind of question. I'm sure you've seen it's on the homework each night, and I'm sure you have seen that it's also on the do-its each day, and it was on the quiz. So this is a kind of question you've got to get comfortable with. If you are not getting it correct so far, there's 2 possible reasons. Number 1, you might not understand it. X is input, Y is output, how to work it. But you also might not be so good with your assigned numbers, and we need to improve on it. Okay, next, which of these 2 graphs is a function? I forgot to draw them, but based on your quizzes, everybody's getting this question right, so I'm not worried about it. Number 3, which of these 2 ordered pairs is a function? What do we got? B. Why is A not a function? What's that? Because there's 2 3's in the domain. 3 has an image of 12, 3 has an image of 15. Good. All right, so now the next thing I want to do is give you a diagram for number 4, because I forgot to put one on your sheet. So let me do that right now. Ready? Go ahead. Oops, sorry. You know, I think you tricked me more than any kid this year. Okay, anybody think they got the answer? You know what I mean? 4 is correct, okay? Now you will remember my happening tune from the last couple of days. Anybody want to sing it for us? come on. Cheyenne, you want to sing it, don't you? Why? Yes, it's such a good song. Come on. Little is too big, as little is too big. Little is too big, as little is too big. That's a hopping and catchy tune, right? A little is too big, as a little is too big. Now, little triangle's the one on the right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for corresponding sides or sides that match up. Little is to big, as little is to big. Now, it doesn't matter which side I start with first. I'll go with the 2.5, but it's irrelevant. What side matches up with the 2.5 in the big triangle? Everybody? 5. And then the little side, x, matches up with the what? 8. Now, or the side of the little triangle for x, I should say. You know, there's two ways to do this. One way is to cross multiply, but another way is to look at it and see if you can find kind of what we're using here mathematically. Does anybody realize 2.5 times what will give me 5? 2, right? Okay. So then what times 2 is 8? 4. So 4 is the correct answer. Now you could surely cross multiply. 5 times x is 5x, and 2.5 times 8 is going to equal 20. Dividing by 5, x is 4. So you can do it either way. You'll come out with the correct answer. But I think sometimes we go right to cross multiplying, and it's actually more difficult if you go right to cross multiplying. We did one yesterday that looked like this. 11 is to 33 as, I want to say 8 is to something x. It was a question like this. And some kids will cross multiply. They'll do 11x equals, and they got to do 8 times 33, which is 264. Then they got to divide by 11. It's like a pain in the butt. It would have been easier to just say this. 11 times what is 33? 3. So 8 times 3 is 24. So sometimes it's a little easier to work that relationship understood. Cross multiplying always works, but sometimes it's quicker and easier to do it the other way. All right, any questions on number 4? All right. That covers pretty much the work of the last few days. What does congruent mean? Congruent, everybody, what's it mean? Same size and shape. Good. What's similar mean? Same shape. Good. So here's our swirl for today. First off, what's a triangle? Gabby, what's a triangle? What's tri mean? Means a number. What number? Everybody help Gabby out. What's tri mean? 3. All right, like a tricycle has how many wheels? 3, right? A trifecta, I don't gamble, but a trifecta is when you win 3 bets, or you get to ride 3 horses. Triangle means 3 angles, okay? So a triangle looks like this. I can do it the way Yarlene was just doing it. It has 3 angles to it, one at the top and one on each of the bottoms, okay? What about a theorem? What's a theorem? What does theorem sound like? Well, you know what? Let's go back to that in a minute. What's equal mean, everybody? The same. Okay, good. Theorem sounds like what word? Theory. Now, there are some very famous theories in the world. For example, there's the theory of evolution. Can't prove it. Anybody who says to you that the theory of evolution is proven is lying. It is so far from proven it's not even funny. In fact, I can slice and dice it and pick it to pieces. I can make it look like Swiss cheese. I'll put so many holes in it. All right? It is not proven. A theory is something that some people think are true or is true, but it's not yet proven. The theory of evolution is a famous one. Another one, all you got to do is look outside to doubt this one. Global warming. How many people believe in global warming? I think you're nuts.
I've seen it.
Really?
Polar.
What's that?
If you look at the Antarctic and the Arctic, the polar ice caps melting.
Do you know that's not true? One of them's growing, one of them's melting.
Oh.
Ah. Do you remember a few years ago we had this thing called El Nino?
Yeah.
Does anybody remember El Nino? Do you know El Nino is famous for introducing weird weather patterns? That's what it's all about. When El Nino first hit, there's some types of fish which are called pelagic fish, which you don't normally find in the northeast United States. They're fish that live in Florida, out in the oceans. We were catching them off Long Island. That doesn't mean they're never here. Do you know there's a place in Stony Brook called Porpoise Channel? Did you know that? How often do you see porpoises swimming around Long Island? But back in the 1930s, they named Porpoise Channel. Why? Because the water was warmer. And when the water was warmer, what do you think came up here? Porpoises. So they called it Porpoise Channel, because porpoises were famous for swimming in this particular channel in the Long Island Sound. Now, global warming says that we're releasing all of these greenhouse gases, and these greenhouse gases are making everything really warm, and the planet's going to suffocate, and there's a whole lot more to it than that. But do you know that the scientists were caught fudging the data? They were. I'm not lying to you, this is absolute truth. The scientists fudged the data, and when they were confronted with the fact that they fudged the data, they said something like this. Well, it was happening anyway, and we just improved it a little so it would be a little more obvious. Do you know on the cover of Time and Newsweek, about 30 years ago, 25, 30 years ago, maybe 20 for all I know, there was the article, The Coming Ice Age, because of how cold it was going to be? The truth is, when an El Nino weather pattern comes in, it creates extreme weather. It creates very warm weather, and it also creates what? Very cold weather. Have you walked outside lately? How often do you remember at the end of February it being this cold? We're almost in March, and it's white. March is not known as the white month. January might be the white month. December, I'm dreaming of a white Christmas.
Well, that was kind of late. The White Christmas, because we did not have a White
Right,
Christmas.
but you know they're calling for snow Monday. Might be a little warm, might change to rain, but they're looking at snow.
There was snow yesterday.
A little bit, yeah. So my point to you is this: if someone would have said global warming is true, I can poke holes in that. I think I can show you it's not true. And that's what a theory is. A theory is something that's not proven. A theorem is proven. And today we're going to study a theorem. That theorem is called the Pythagorean theorem. So we're going to work on that right now. Now, students have a tendency to believe that all school, all math is boring and stuff like that there's no value in it. Now, I don't know why a kid would think like that. I have a question. If you could do anything you wanted to when you're a little bit older, what are the things you think would be important enough to do? Anything you could do. Yeah, what would they be? Some things, anything at all that you think is important that you could do with all of your time.
Or anything.
Anything.
Go on a couple of vacations.
Vacations.
And sleep.
And sleep. Vacations and sleep. What else would you think is valuable and important? Something you would want to be involved with. Come on. Go dancing. Right? Come dancing. What about, like my wife, she loves dog shows. Right? She likes to go to dog shows. I like fly fishing and photography.
I'm going to explore the world.
Explore the world. What else you got out there that you'd like to do? Eric, if you could do one thing when you get older that you think is important. Good times. Important and fun. Good times. What would you think it would be? Sometimes kids go, party. Party. Right? Right? Yeah, we got Jennifer sitting over there going, wait, you know what I'm talking about. Now, here's the thing. Back in the days of the Greeks, way back when, you remember the Greeks, right? Athens, Sparta, city-states, first semi-democracies going on there. Probably more democratic than nowadays with Obama taking over and the way the rhino Republicans are running around in Congress. Now, Sparta, yes. Well, here's the thing. There was this group called the Pythagoreans. They were named after their leader, a guy named Pythagorean. You know, they were very famous leaders of learning back then. You ever hear Socrates? Right? Plato? Okay. Well, the Pythagoreans were a group that was really into doing fun things and learning. Do you know what they thought were the most important things to do with their time?
Learn.
Get drunk. They were really into getting drunk. Now, you're looking at a guy who's never been drunk in his life. And that's a true statement. I've never been drunk. I think I've only had parts of 3 beers in my life just to sit down and drink a beer with my dad twice and my girlfriend's dad once. So that's it as far as that goes. These guys thought getting drunk was really cool. I don't know where that comes from. They also thought that, what else did they think was really cool? There was something else that they thought was really important. There was drinking. Going out on dates. They thought hanging out with, if you were a guy, hanging out with a woman. There really weren't too many girls involved in it. So the guys would go out and date women. They thought that was important. The third thing they thought was important, math. They were really into math. And they thought sitting around thinking about math was up there with getting drunk and hanging out with women. It's true. That's what the Pythagoreans did. And that's why they got all these math theorems. And one of the most famous theorems in the history of math came from them. This thing called the Pythagorean theorem. And I have it in the box right here. It says leg squared plus leg squared is hypotenuse squared. And it's also known as a squared plus b squared is c squared. We'll talk it in that form a little bit more later on. But I want you to understand what this theorem says. And notice it is a theorem. A theorem is proven. Everybody turn to the person around you and say, a theorem is proven. On your paper, write the word theorem. Now, how does that apply to this particular problem? I'm going to give you kind of a semi-proof of this. Now, this stuff about leg squared plus leg squared equals hypotenuse squared, it's only true in a right triangle. Now, a right triangle, by the way, where do you go when it's cold?
Somewhere warm.
You go in the corner. You know why? It's 90 degrees. Get it? Get it? You get it? Right? Look, it's 90 degrees. See it?
Actually, not always. Some people mess that up.
No, it's a corner. It's 90 degrees. Now, if they change the angle, it's not really called a corner anymore. So, that's a great joke, isn't it? Right? Yeah, absolutely. I think it's pretty hot. Okay. Now, here's the thing. Get on your paper right now. We'll get with your paper. Where is the right angle in this right triangle? Think of it as the corner.
It's in the corner.
Get this one right here. That's your 90-degree angle. Okay? And then I want everybody to draw the right angle and then draw an arrow across from it. And I want you to write HYP. What do you suppose HYP is short for? That word, that Greek word would be hypotenuse. Okay? The hypotenuse is the longest side of a right triangle. It's always across from the right angle. Now these other two sides, they're called legs. So the first thing I want you to be able to do with a right triangle is be able to draw in the right angle and then draw the arrow across to the hypotenuse. Now, according to the Pythagorean theorem, now this only works in right triangles, we said that before. According to the Pythagorean theorem, the square of one leg plus the square of the other leg is going to equal the hypotenuse squared. Now, this is a true theorem. It works for everything, and I don't have the time right now to prove it for everything, but I'm going to prove it for this one instance. If I had some graph paper, I could show you for everything. Now watch. 3 squared, because a leg is 3. What's the other leg?
4 squared.
Plus 4 squared. Our country set forth, no, okay. Okay.
What?
4 score and 7 years ago, our forefathers set forth the Emancipation Proclamation, Abraham Lincoln. 3 squared plus 4 squared, our forefathers, 9. Okay. 3 squared plus 4 squared equals, and what does it say the hypotenuse is? 5. What's 3 squared, everybody? Don't say 6. 9, right? To square something means multiply it by itself. So 3 times 3 is 9. Plus 4 squared is what? 16 equals 5 squared is 25. What is 9 plus 16? 25. So see, it works. 25 equals 25. Now this Pythagorean theorem thing we're working on, this is so important. Yeah, oh, they're smart. I'm telling you, they like to drink, they like to date, and they like to do math. I don't think the drinking made them any smarter. So don't go home and say, my math teacher said my homework is to go out and get drunk tonight so that I can get better at math. I'm not saying that. Are we crystal clear on that issue? All right. Oh yeah, that go over real good. Dr. Pachula will be getting all these phone calls. What is Lindquist given for homework now? So we are not to go home and drink. Well, you can drink water. You can drink by 5. Gatorade. Seltzer water or grape juice. No alcohol. Bad. I don't really. Can I tell you? Can I tell you the truth? You've probably done this. You should not have, but we all do it when we're young. Have you ever tasted beer?
Yeah.
Doesn't it taste disgusting?
Yeah.
I put it in my mouth. I was like, and just spat it all over the place. I'm like, this is disgusting. How can you know what I'm talking about? How can you voluntarily drink this stuff? I remember one time I was going to be a man. I was going to be a man's man. I spent the whole fall putting vinyl siding on my house, and I finally finished. And I figured I'm going to sit down. I'm going to put my feet up in the living room. I'm going to pop myself open a beer and watch football. So I sat down on my couch. I put my feet up on top of the hassock. I turned the TV on. I popped open a beer. I put it to my mouth and I spat it all over my living room floor and said, this is disgusting. How does anybody drink this stuff? So I just don't drink. And it's not because I'm like morally better than people. It's not like that at all. I just find the taste of alcohol to be awful. So if you tried to tempt me with chocolate chip cookies and milk, I lose all the time. I love my chocolate chip cookies.
Especially if they're soft.
Just double dunk and just suck that in there. Oh, so good. Cookie! Cookie!
Yours from my friend.
Oh, cookies are the best. Okay, so what I've done is, I haven't 100% of the time proven it, but I've shown you that it's a theorem. A theorem is something that's always true. I showed you one case in which it's true, but it is true all the time. If I had a little more time, I would show you a proof of it. If you really want to see the proof, you can come in the morning and extra help, and I'll be happy to show it to you. But now what I want to do is I want to use the fact that this is always true in a right triangle. Let's say that again because it's so important. In a right triangle. It's always true in a right triangle. That I can now use it to find missing sides. And that makes it extremely powerful. Okay? Guys ever, I say guys, it's a little sexist. It's possible that the ladies here are doing it too, but more often than not it is guys. You ever like do construction, build things?
Yeah.
Have you ever used like a speed square? Right, there's right triangles in a speed square. And my son told me he was shocked that he actually uses the Pythagorean theorem and other right triangle skills when he does construction work. And he said he thought he would never use it in his entire life. So, and Mr. Golden could also tell you that he uses this as well. So, all right. First off, it says to use the Pythagorean theorem. So let's start by writing leg squared plus leg squared is equal to hypotenuse squared. And then I want you to take the right angle above that. The right triangle, I want you to draw the right angle, draw the arrow to the hypotenuse, and label the hypotenuse. You don't have to label the legs, because if you label the hypotenuse, you're also labeling the legs. This is so important, we're going to do 3 days of work on this Pythagorean theorem stuff, so I have to make sure we're in good shape with this. All right, what is this 6? Is this 6 a leg or is it the hypotenuse? Leg. So 6 squared plus, what about this 8? What is that? A leg, right? And I forgot to draw it, but there's your hypotenuse. So, and then what's the hypotenuse going to be? N. All right, so now let's just start grinding out the formula. What is 6 squared? 36, good. And what is 8 squared? 64 is equal to n squared. Now let's just do what it says. It says 36 plus 64. What does that add up to? 100, right? So 100 is n squared. Now you should have learned last year about this thing called taking a square root and what the square root of a number is. A square root is the number that times itself is equal to 100. So what number times itself is equal to 100? Don't say 50. 10. Isn't 10 times 10 100?
Yeah.
So n is equal to 10. Okay? Now I want you guys to try the middle one. Go ahead. Make sure you label the hypotenuse. That's a very important thing to do. Okay. What's the 5? Guys, what's the 5? Leg. What's the 12? And then the hypotenuse is n squared. So this is going to be 25 plus, what's 12 squared? 144, good. Is equal to n squared. If I add them up, I get 169. Is n squared. Bonus points if you know the square root of 169. 13. N is equal to 13. Now, today, for the last question that we do, I'm going to set you up in, or have you leave the room in a thinking mode. Here's my right angle, there's my hypotenuse. What is that n? It's a leg. So now the n is going to go in the leg place. Plus, the 15 is a leg, equals the hypotenuse, which is 17. And this is different because now where is the n squared located? It's in a leg place. It's not over by itself like it was on the previous two in place of the hypotenuse. So I'm going to get n squared plus 225. I know that off the top of my head. 17 squared is 289. How sick is it that I know these numbers off the top of my head? I'm weird.
Yes.
That's why I'm dressed like I am. No jokes about how I'm dressed. Minus 225.
You just made a joke about yourself, though.
Yeah, I know, I like to pick on myself. If you can't laugh at yourself, then you just take life a little too seriously. N squared equals 64, square root both sides. What's the square root of 64? What number times itself is 64? 8. Good. N equals 8. So the green one shows you that the n is not always part of the hypotenuse, and sometimes you actually end up subtracting in the problem, not just adding. And we have 2 more days of this, so we'll practice it a lot more tomorrow. Do you guys remember this from last year? The last class said no. It used to be a popular part of 7th grade. I guess with the Common Core, they moved it all around. But we'll do 3 days worth of work on it, and then you know me well enough to know that there's gonna be a ton of homework questions with this on it for the rest of the year. So. Hasta la vista, bye, con Dios, arrivederci, smile a lot. Yes. Here we go, toodaloo, got our shoes, ta-ta. Arrivederci. Enjoy, good to have you back, Darlene. Gabby was happy today.